Right guys, so we're here using this isolateral front pull down. Really good exercise here for the lats, okay? So the benefit here being that you're able to take the lats basically through a full range challenge. So they're going to be challenged in the overhead position, and they're going to be challenged in that position where the shoulder is actually extended. So really nice variation for the lats as a result. So a couple of different moving parts here that is worth, you know, paying attention to. There are lessons here that carry over to other exercises. So one thing that's really nice about this variation is that you'll see that Paddy has both a leg restraint and a chest restraint. So that means that you've got a point of restraint from you moving forward, but also you moving upward. So as a result, it's very easy to keep really locked in at all points in the range of motion. Because what you might find here is that, you know, if you just had the padding for the actual legs and keeping the legs down and basically the vertical restraint, that would be fine when you're up the top. But as you come to the bottom, the way that this machine moves, it's so that it's trying to pull you forward basically in the bottom position. So as a result, if you can have that restraint here, that really allows you to maximize force output in both the top and the bottom positions. And for that reason, it's just a really excellent variation, okay? Another good thing about this is that, as you'll see, the handles are angled slightly, okay? So they're not fully supinated, they're kind of semi-supinated. So the reason that is good is because for many of you as coaches, you'll be aware that, you know, some of your clients might have, you know, an injury history, they might have fractured their wrist at some point, and they might find certain exercises to be provocative, you know, for old injuries. And ultimately, if we're trying to stimulate exercise adaptations, we want, obviously, you know, pain and discomfort to not be limiting us as much as possible. So that again is another benefit of a machine like this. So we've got our restraints, we've got those variations in terms of the actual grip, and another moving part that you've got going on here that I'd like to kind of put some emphasis on is that when you've got these points where you've got 2 points of contact between the actual loading and the base of the machine, you know, you'll see this on leg press variations, you'll see this on different chest press variations. This gives us the option to actually adjust the starting range of motion. Because basically what you have to realize is that, you know, the positions that are dealt with, you know, in terms of the machine itself, they're not going to suit every single individual. So what I'm thinking of here is someone who comes in who maybe they had previous shoulder surgery, or they used to play rugby and, you know, they took a bad knock in that shoulder and, you know, it's real tight, or they just don't have great range of motion. And if we're kind of trying to force that individual into the same range of motion as someone who might be, you know, really flexible and really mobile, then, you know, that's probably not the best approach as personal trainers who are trying to customize exercise. So what I might want to look at here, you know, if Paddy says to me, you know, I don't feel great in the top position, it's hurting my shoulder, but the rest of the range of motion is fine. What I might do then is try to do a quick assessment. So Paddy, if you're sitting in that position there, can you put your right hand overhead for me? Okay, so I can see there that Paddy's got the requisite range of motion to be able to do this exercise from the top position. I'm not worried about that, you know? And then the other side, Paddy, perfect, same deal again. But if I saw that this right hand went up and it was here, you know, as a trainer, I mightn't necessarily know why that is the case. You know, there's some sort of limitation there, and that's all I know. So if Paddy can only go that far, and, you know, I'm pushing him a bit further, and that's it, then there's going to be compensation. So either the load is going to be pulling that joint into an uncomfortable position, or he's going to be leaning back, or whatever the compensation might be. So instead, what we can do here is I can set up his starting position by, you know, placing a weight or something in between there, or even just supporting him actually getting into that position, and then we'll keep that as our standardized range of motion. So I could use that by adjusting the range of motion there, or what I could do is I could stand as Paddy's coach and say, you know, right Paddy, when you come back to the top position here, I want you to stop at my hand. So down into the row, or pull down, and back up as far as here, and then back down again. Okay, so that's one way, guys, of just trying to standardize the range of motion for your client. And then obviously when you're putting the weight back up, you don't want to just have them, you know, just let it go, because what I might do is say, right Paddy, I've got you a bit of support here, cool, boom, right? So what we've done there is we've taken the generic variation that was there and we've actually applied it to our client and their actual limitation, you know. So in that case, if I had Paddy, you know, his right shoulder was more limited and maybe it has a different level of strength, and the left shoulder was perfectly mobile and perfectly, you know, strong at his peak, that what I might want to do is just treat this as a unilateral exercise. So we do our right arm and then we do our left arm rather than doing them, both at the same time. So that's one of the things that you can do there. But in general, let's go through a couple of reps just to have a look at the exercise itself. What you'll see, you might be able to make note of it from that angle, is that when you get up into this top position, the hands are a little bit closer together, and that generally feels quite comfortable and gives you a nice stretch on the lats. And then as you get to the bottom, the weights are moving out a little bit. So there's a slight off-center arc here so that the arm is moving outside the body, okay? What you don't want on a lat pull down is that, it's basically convergent so that your elbows are coming into your sides, because then you can't get past. But in this case, it's just fine, okay? So it's perfect for getting past the sides of the body. So you can play around a little bit with grip widths here. You might find that if you have someone that has too much of a narrow grip width, that demands more of the shoulders up the top, so that mightn't be the best option for them. But you also might find that if someone goes, too wide, they mightn't feel the same stimulus down the bottom. So you might want to play around with that with your client. Another thing that you might want to be aware of here is that someone might report different levels of strength at different points in the range of motion. So if I see Paddy doing this exercise and he's fine as far as here, but he just can't get any further, or even if it's just the case that he's mid-set and starting to fatigue, as a coach, I can start to apply some specific spotting. So let's go into that range, Paddy, good man, and then back up, and I leave off my spotting then. So this is really where the art of coaching comes in, is that you're supporting your client at the point where their deficits actually are, rather than just helping them throughout the range. So as a result, we're now customizing the resistance that we're applying to Paddy's body based on what he's presenting with during this repetition, okay? And you can let it down again. And even if it's not the case that it's like some inherent weakness, or maybe he feels pain on the bottom or whatever it is, it might just be the case that you want to, extend the set. So one of your clients, they might be training for bodybuilding or something like that, and they're really trying to maximize the stimulus and get more out of a set. And they might be saying, look, I've only got an hour to train. I don't have the option to do 4 or 5 sets. So you might say, all right, let's do 1 set or 2 sets where we really push things to failure and beyond within the constraints that we have. So rather than reaching failure as a result of 1 point in the range of motion, you use the art of spotting to be able to push that person further and further, and applying more and more of a stimulus rather than just cutting it at that point of concentric failure. So lots of different things going on there, guys, but overall really nice variation here for trying to train the lats. You get that benefit of training that overhead position, as well as that kind of shortened position of the lats, a little bit of that kind of scapular retraction work as well in there. But what I would take away from this, guys, is that there are different moving parts to machines that you can start to play around with. And importantly, coaching is to some degree about personalization and trying to work with the individual in front of you. So having an idea of where range of motion fits into exercises, where things like restraint fit in, where spotting fits in and cueing fits in, that will all make you a better coach and allow you to work with more individuals, and hopefully make exercises fit those individuals better, and hopefully that they have a better training experience in the end.